Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for attending our last session of this HR enrichment program organized by Abu Dhabi University and delivered by the College of Business. My name is Professor Hussam Abul Anin. I'm a professor of HR at the University of Abu Dhabi, and I'll be the moderator of this reflection session, where you will be actually reflecting on the previous experience and sharing best practices. And of course, in the last 3 days, you attended the first 3 modules on career adaptability delivered by Dr. Khalazani. And then the second module was the diversity in the workforce delivered by Dr. Ross. And yesterday, you attended the HRM in global environment delivered by Dr. Christina. So as I mentioned today, in today's session, you will be reflecting on the role of HR in post-pandemic world, right? And in order to keep the, this session interactive, because we are going actually to interact with me and just share your experience, previous experience with all of us. So I'm going to use this slide, and I'm going to share with you this the QR code that you can actually scan in order to be able to interact with me and just to post your comments, your opinion in the throughout the this reflection session. So you have the QR code. Please just scan it in order to be able to get the presentation in your mobile phone and also to interact. Okay, so I'll keep the QR code for like 2 minutes in order for the the other participants who are going to join us. Then he can actually get the presentation. All right. Okay. So actually, in today's session, as I mentioned, you will be reflecting on the role of HR in post-pandemic world. All right, and of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has presented many challenges to organizations, and also the role of HR managers after the pandemic has changed significantly. So this module actually aims, or this session, the reflection session, aims to provide you with the opportunity to reflect on the experience of the COVID-19 pandemic and the role of HR to support the employees in ensuring safety and business continuity. All right. So you will be reflecting on how they will use the knowledge and skills gained. You will actually reflecting on the knowledge and skills you gain from this this program, because as I mentioned, you attended 3 sessions during the last 3 days, and I'm sure that you gained some knowledge from these 3 modules. And I'm sure that this knowledge that you have gained, it will help you to improve the course. If you're working in the HR or you are planning to join the HR professional, in order to be able to improve the performance of the organization in general and HR in particular. Okay, so this is a QR code. Let's get started now. Okay, so now today, as is this today webinar is actually we are going to have a quick introduction, and then the main question that we are going to discuss, or the main topic, as I said, is just how has the pandemic changed the role of HR? All right, the role of HR before the pandemic is completely different from the role of HR post the pandemic. So now HR after the pandemic, the HR professionals or the HR department organization, they are handling more activities, more function they have to practice, as we'll see this afternoon. So the main topic that we have in this afternoon session is we need to discuss all together, to share experiences, how the pandemic affected the role of HR. So that is going to be our main topic. So in order to start, I have a very short video just for all of us to watch, which actually is going to summarize, the role of HR after the post-pandemic, and is going to show us what we are going to do in this afternoon session. All right, so let's watch this short video, which will summarize what we are going to do or to discuss today.
COVID-19 is one of the biggest crises of our time. It has impacted every single one of us, shaken our social systems, and disrupted every sector of our economies. The automation of work, combined with a global recession, led workers to lose their jobs at an accelerated pace compared to previous years. And this trend is expected to continue. The ongoing shift in the division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms might displace 85 million jobs worldwide in the next 5 years, while 97 million new roles, ones that are more adapted to this new task distribution, may emerge. By 2025, companies expect to displace roughly 6% of their total workforce. 1 in 2 workers will need reskilling, and those remaining in their current roles will need to update 40% of their skill set to adapt to the changing labor market. There is a way to collectively benefit from these challenging times. Decades of research have shown that the most valuable asset of any economy or company is its human capital. Around the globe, companies are already experiencing a shortage in relevant skills for future roles and are investing in reskilling and of their employees to ensure they can smoothly transition into the jobs of tomorrow. These include DevOps engineers, artificial intelligence specialists, digital marketing managers, talent acquisition specialists, and customer success specialists. It will take on average between 2 weeks and 5 months for workers to pick up new skills, allowing them to move into these new roles. But data shows they won't need to have the perfect skill set to start transitioning. While 2/3 of employers expect to get a return on investment in employees' reskilling programs within just 1 year, governments will also need to step in to update and fund education and training systems and to ensure displaced workers have adequate safety nets. With purposeful leadership and collaboration, we can turn this global crisis into a unique opportunity to transition into a future of jobs that is inclusive, fair, and sustainable.
All right, so as we actually watch it in this video. All right, that's 1 second. All right, that's the how the COVID actually 19 pandemic actually is fast as we watch it from this video, fast tracking what we call the digital transformation in companies. All right, now the companies now should be able to actually even after the pandemic, but of course that was very obvious during the pandemic that employees actual staff had to work from home. Also we have seen in the healthcare sector what we call it the telehealth, that actually during the pandemic, during the lockdown, all right, we actually couldn't go and see our doctors, so we have to have a remote appointment. Also, for students, they have actually also to attend classes virtually. All right, events going virtual. All right, we are using, that's the same, the platform we're using right now, Zoom and Teams. All right, have been introduced in order to allow businesses to continue their operation. So actually we have seen, and this is very clearly, as I mentioned, in the healthcare sector and all sectors, all industries, right? So I mean, they, if you're talking now, if you take the example of the healthcare sector, now we, as I mentioned, we had during the pandemic in the healthcare sectors, we had so many problems, especially as an example of the healthcare sector. For example, as I mentioned, the problem of no remote access, lack of online pharmaceutical stores, all right? And also, because in order to have this kind of telehealth and the virtual appointment, we should have an effective and efficient data management and data sharing. So due to this, actually, studies show that 50% of, as we watch in the video, that 50% of all employees will need reskilling by 2025 in order to be able to adopt to adopt technology and to adapt to the technology increase. All right. And our next point that we are going to discuss it now is the future skills needed due to the impact of the COVID-19. So again, and for example, in the higher education industry, right? Once the pandemic had, right, HR played a significant role for us as a faculty member to be trained on how to use Zoom, how to use Microsoft Teams, how we can interact with our students virtually, right? In order to be able to respond to the pandemic, and in order to be able to deliver our session virtually, all right? The same as I mentioned in the healthcare sector, and I'm sure that you had a lot of examples, or you have a lot of examples from your own organizations as well. Okay, so COVID pandemic has a huge impact on all business functions in general and HR in particular, as we will see, right? Okay, so now let's brainstorm and let us interact about the future skills needed, and you can actually post your opinion here. What do you think the skills needed after the pandemic? HR, for example, when HR, they are actually recruiting staff, All right, of course, that it does vary from one position to another, but again, in general, nowadays, after the pandemic, right, when HR, they are actually revising the job descriptions, job specification for the different position they have. What are the main skills? They have to ensure that these skills are there, and these skills, they need to hire people or potential candidates who actually have these kind of skills in order to outperform in the organization. So then the future skills needed after the pandemic. What do you think? All right, soft skills, problem-solving skills, very, very good. You know, if you want to insert your name, you can do that if you want, because you have the option when you post your answer to put your name if you want. It's not a must, but if you want. All right, so we have here soft skills, problem solving, very good. Digital, okay, very good. Skills, Mr. Ahsan, yes, that's correct. What else? What do you think? The future skills after the pandemic that actually need HR need actually when we need to hire staff, for example, or employees after the pandemic. We need to make sure that these skills are there. I mean, the skills, there, and also that is need to be reflected in what we call in the job description itself. Okay, what else? Communication, very, very safe, very, very important. Of course, communication is always very important skills. Excellent. Self-management and emotional intelligence. Very, very good. And that is one of the skills that I'm going to share with you in details. Excellent, Jude. Okay. Yeah, what else? Yeah, communication is important. Emotional intelligence is extremely important. Okay, what else? More skills. What do you say? Future skills needed in order to succeed in your job after the pandemic. What do you think? Come on, more skills. What do you think? All right. Okay. So let me share with you some, some skills. Needed. All right. In the future. Okay. New digital communication skills. Yes, correct. All right. Okay. What else? All right. So here, first one, first skill needed nowadays. All right. And HR, department and the people who are responsible for hiring, recruiting, selecting new employees, you have to make sure that these kind of skills are there. All right. First one is what we call adaptability and flexibility. All right. One thing is for sure, the way these companies operate and work are going to change as we saw from the video. There will be a few jobs for life, that's for sure. All right, someone that's going to succeed in a post-COVID or post-pandemic world will need, to be able to adapt to ever-evolving workplaces, and they have the ability to update and refresh their skills. So let's agree there's no jobs for life. You have to update yourself. All right. You need always to learn. All right. Always, people have to enhance their skills. So adaptability and flexibility is important. Digital skills, tech skills are very, very important. So employees should prepare themselves for a post-pandemic in order by acquiring technology skills. All right, so that's why I mentioned in my introduction that the COVID-19 pandemic is fast-tracking digital transformations in companies as they are trying to be more resilient to future pandemic. And we don't know exactly what will happen in the future. Once we get out of the pandemic, then we had this war between Ukraine and Russia, and even now, pandemic still not over. We are getting new variants, and we don't know. There's a huge uncertainty whether the current vaccine we have will be able to deal and tackle this new variant or not. So still there's uncertainty, all right, going on. So here, technology and digital skills are extremely important, especially that organizations nowadays, they are trying to improve the digital or to move into the digital transformation. And as we watch the video, the artificial intelligence technology, like artificial intelligence, the big data, the robotics, all right, and that is something employees need to gain and need to be trained on in order to be able to adapt. All right, another future skill which is really needed, right, heavily nowadays, which is innovation and creativity, right? And I'm sure that you know which ones comes before the other, creativity or innovation, right? And of course, creativity comes before the innovation. So you have to be creative in order to be able to what? To innovate. So creativity is about what? Thinking of new things, thinking about new things, but innovation to do new things, to do what? New things. If you still remember, that now we have this online banking service, right? 20 years back or 30 years back or 40 years back, when the banking industry introduced this online banking, that was at that time, it was a very creative idea. But banks, they succeeded to adopt the technology in order to get it done. And that is the innovation part. So as an employee or as HR department, they need to promote creativity and the innovation within the organization in order to be able to respond to the uncertainty. So they need to make sure that people hired are creative and innovative. So that could be easily assessed through the interview, through using some some tests provided to the employee, using some personality assessment tests also in order to see how creative and innovative you are. So creativity and innovation is extremely important after the pandemic. I'll give you an example. When you talk about Mercedes, all right, Mercedes, when they have shifted during the pandemic from making racing cars to innovative breathing aids, just to help, the world when the pandemic hit. They actually shifted from making these racing cars to produce these tools for patient or for COVID patient to use it in order to breathe properly. All right, so that innovation is very important. All right, as Jude mentioned, all right, emotional intelligence, very important during the uncertainty, all right, or when employee actually feel uncertain about his or her job, especially due to the negative impact of the pandemic. So emotional intelligence is very important skills. All right, so that's why emotional intelligence closely linked to the leadership is another skill. That leader here I talk about leaders and managers. All right, they should have this kind of skill, which is emotional intelligence, which is the ability to be aware of express and to control your emotion and to be aware of others' emotion as well. And that is what emotional intelligence is all about. And that is very important skill that manager leaders should have, all right, in order to motivate their employees and followers. That is something also HR need to consider when they are training leaders, training managers, or hiring new leader and manager. Okay, another future skill, which is you should have the ability, or the candidate or HR need to make sure that these people, they have the ability or commit to lifetime learning. And that is related to what I presented at the beginning, that 35% of the skills, all right, considered essential today will change in the future, 35%. All right, so again, having the ability always to capability to learn, that is extremely important. Okay, so that is basically the most important future skills needed in the future when it comes to the the impact of COVID on HR. All right, so HR, why we are discussing this? Because again, when it comes to hiring, recruitment, selection, updating, revising job description, job analysis, these should be there. Skills should be there. We need to hire, all right, a person to work, for example, in the research and development department. So he should have good innovation and creativity skills should be there, and also the adaptability also should be there. Need to be there. So that is extremely important, right? Okay, now also due to the impact of COVID, nowadays diversity is important issue nowadays in organization, because don't forget, innovation and creativity, a prerequisite to promote innovation and creativity in what do you call it, in organization that you need to enhance diversity within the organization. So what do you think? You agree or disagree that diversity is an important issue post-pandemic? Now only 4 out of the 36 participants agree with this. What about the rest? Disagree? Okay, 6. What about the remaining 30? Agree or disagree? Come on. Diversity is important. Why is it important, especially after the pandemic? And what is the role of HR to promote diversity and to ensure that diversity is there within the working environment? All right. So 8 out of the 36 participants I have this afternoon agree. 9 agree. What about the rest? Disagree? And why, if you disagree? You are with or against diversity within the workplace. So you enjoy working with different people coming from different background, different thoughts, or you feel comfortable working with people coming from the same country or coming from having the same cultural background? What kind of people you enjoy more? Different people or people similar to the same culture you are coming from, and the same background you are coming from? All right. Okay. So yeah. So I mean, here, as you can see, yes, that's correct. I mean, diversity is extremely important nowadays, especially after the pandemic, and the HR should play a role here, right, in ensuring diversity in the in the organization. All right. So diversity is vital to the success of any business, as I mentioned. And how successful are you going to be if you have an organization filled with the same people, with similar backgrounds, as I mentioned, and the same thinking? We all need to be challenged in our thinking and decision making, for sure. So it means that you need to interact, to work with people coming from different background, even different culture. Coming from different culture, by the way, promote innovation and creativity. Some people coming from a culture where they are wild risk taking. They love to take risk. They love to take risk all the time. Those kind of people, when you negotiate with them, for example, all right, when you deal with them, they have a quick response. They are not thinking too much. They give you the decision on the spot. While other people coming from other culture, that they are low risk taker. They don't like to take risks. That's why when you give them a task, when you ask them something to do, they have to think, all right, too much in order to get it done, because they don't like uncertainty. You know what I mean? They need to do their homework properly in order to get it done. So so diversity is important, especially when you talk about digital transformation, when you are talking about upskilling employees. Also, when you are talking about ongoing learning, diversity is important. Okay, right. Okay. All right. So right. Okay. Yeah. Why? Well, as I mentioned, that is we answer already this question, but let's give you like 2 minutes if you want to share your experience on this topic. Why diversity is important issue post pandemic? What do you think? You can insert or share your experience just by writing a few words here. Okay, why diversity is important? You can share actually your experience. You know what I mean? Share. You know, for example, in your organization, you know, whether you have quite diverse workforce, diverse, you know, diverse, you know, colleagues. All right. Or, for example, you are working in an organization where, for example, let's assume, you know, 99% of the employees coming from a particular culture or background. Exchange ideas, yes. And Mr. Arif is shuffling employees, yeah. Okay. Old ones are costly. Okay. Uh, yeah, very, very good. It creates efficiency and effectiveness. And I'm sure that, you know, efficiency and effectiveness when it comes to the you know, achieving the strategic goal of the organization, these two terms are extremely important. And that is will lead us when we talk about later on about examples of the changes in HR. One HR activity is, which is actually HR is heavily involved, is how to minimize cost. And that is the efficiency. All right, efficiency. Well, that's what does it mean? How can you be more efficient? All right, how can you be what more efficient in order to cut costs? And HR here should play a significant role, especially after the pandemic, where all businesses they want to minimize costs, they want to cut costs. All right, so diversity here will create new ideas, creative ideas to how can we cut costs? How can we do our job more efficiently? Okay, and effectiveness also mean that the quality of the performance, the quality of what? The quality of the performance also. That is related to effectiveness. All right. When you have different people coming from different culture, different background, they can suggest, share new ideas. How, for example, can cut, reduce customer complaint? How can we reduce the defective rate of our products? How we can respond quickly to customer questions and so on. So that's very good point. Develop knowledge, Mr. Safe, share experience, different ideas, excellent, great. Mr. Ahsan, different culture have different ways to cope with pandemic, having different minds increases innovation, 100%. I totally agree, exactly. Nowadays, if organizations after the pandemic want to promote innovation, creativity, diversity is a must. I totally agree with you, Mr. Ahsan. Mr. Salim, also the same. It actually is the same idea, which I agree with you. Improve creativity and innovation. Mr. Andrew, you know, because utilize the strength of culture, and which in turn surpass the weakness of the other culture. Exactly. So they are compensating each other. That's why diversity is important. Jude, diversity brings in more innovation, inclusion. That's true. It also can help understand customer needs better globally. Exactly. Here, the word globally here is extremely important. Yeah, especially, you know, if we are talking about, and I'm sure that we are working global organization. Global organization mean operating in different countries. All right, where these you know, these organizations to succeed, they have to be able to adapt to these local cultures, needs and wants. All right, so diversity will help, as Jude mentioned. Diversity will help in order to, you know, absorb the differences across different cultures. So that is very, very, very good feedback from your side. The pandemic also has presented Mr. Denver different challenges, and diversity, the way we do things, is one of the best to tackle the challenges brought by the pandemic. I totally agree with you. So diversity is extremely important. Thanks for the note. That's extremely, and that's correct. Great. So we agreed, all of us, that diversity is another important thing. Now, also after the pandemic or post-pandemic, HR should actually play active role in promoting what? Fun at work. That's why promoting fun at work is becoming important, especially post-pandemic. But why? What do you think why? That is extremely important nowadays, to bring fun to the workplace. Even for that is also important before the pandemic, but it's becoming more important post-pandemic. And nowadays HR and even provider playing significant role and enhance the quality of work life. That's what we call the quality of work life. But promoting fun, why, is becoming important, especially post-pandemic. That to enjoy what you're doing, you actually consider your job as one of the most important parts in your life. You love working, going to the organization. Okay, Mr. Arif, job satisfaction is important because that is work. The fun at work will lead to enhanced job satisfaction. That's why it's important. All right, it creates a user-friendly environment, allowing employees to show their efficiency openly. Yes, exactly. A friendly environment is very important. Building teamwork, good environment, excellent. All right, fun is important, much better than politics in the work environment. Very good. What else? Why fun is working is important, especially after the post-pandemic. Okay, so it's very obvious. I mean, when you create high quality working environment, that will lead actually people to outperform, and that is the role of HR, by the way. The activities they are organizing, especially post-pandemic. All right, the social activity, the gathering. You know what I mean? That is extremely important. Okay, Jude, I think people read that they don't want to waste their time, so they want to work at a place that doesn't show their appreciation. So of course they need to work in a place where they show they appreciate what they are doing. Thank you, Jude. Okay, so yeah, so fun at work is extremely important. That's for sure. And and the as I mentioned, it's another element in a business. And just let us be honest, who wants to work for a company that is not fun and doesn't have fun people to work with? So creating a fun environment, as well as also people who can actually bring fun to the workplace. And that's HR role here, just to create what we call the social connection in this new world, especially after the pandemic, the post-pandemic, where still some people in some organizations are working. And that is not going to be stopped, by the way, that people to continue working from home. That social connection should be there, or should be promoted, especially when people are still working remotely. And this HR job to facilitate such kind of social connection, all right, especially when new people can get to know people outside their team. That's extremely important, especially when people working virtually. This kind of creating social connection, people to get know each other's. That is extremely important. Okay, extremely important. Now, let's now. I agree, Mr. Danifer, that the pandemic has put so much stress. Yes. All right, and that's extremely so promoting fun at workplace enable people to relax their minds and to be able to perform, improve communication and cooperation. That's very important. That is, by the way, that will create fun, communication, enhancing communication and cohesiveness among the members in the same department, or even across department. That's why interdepartmental teams are very important, and that is the role of HR to create such kind of teams, in order to bring more fun to the workplace. All right, so that's great, and I'm very happy with what you are sharing with us. Here, reducing stress, coping with challenge, building energy. I agree. Very correct. Absolutely right. Now, the main question now we are going to, to address or to answer, and we did that partially during the first, 40 minutes now. How has the pandemic changed the role of of human resources, right? So just about share your experience, how the role of HR has been changed, after the post-pandemic. So what kind of changes that, that HR actually, so that how they change, how pandemic changed the HR, the role of HR. Share your experience, please. All right. Reflect on the previous, during the last now almost 2 years and a half, we need to know the changes for the HR. Making more digital, yes. All right. Onboarding process done virtually. Yeah, virtually, yes. Okay, on board, the entire employee cycle, one start from the screening, shortlisting, interviewing, induction days, and social everything, done digitally and virtually. Very good. All right, more okay, okay, of course, it has created a vast opportunity for virtual world. Okay, so what is all of HR here now? This virtual world. Okay, more thoughts, please. Roles are changing. Yes, new opportunities are developing. Exactly. Yes, these changes we need to, to share these changes in HR. Yeah. What else? For those who actually joined us a little bit late, you have this link up there, all right, which is just to go to the slide, and this is the link you can use in order to get the presentation and to participate, interact with us. This is a link up there, all right, you can see it. Okay, this is a slide link. You can actually, use it in order to, to be able to join. Monitoring employees working remotely, and that is, by the way, big challenge. Big challenge, how you can actually HR to make sure that people are performing virtually. That is big challenge, all right, and that is big change, by the way. During interviews via online platform, yes. Final assessment, without meeting the person physically. I totally agree with you. That is big challenge, because, and just when you interview people virtually, it's, of course, it's not like meeting people face to face, where we can observe, their facial expression when you ask them question, predict how they are going to perform in the future. You can, still you can get that virtually, but not like face to face. Also making sure that you are implementing, especially in the United Arab Emirates, implementing the COVID protocols. Yes, look at personal application, green, remind employees. All right, for example, you have to get tested every 14 days. If you tested positively or one of your team members tested positively, you have to have 24 hours to report it to us, to submit that, to fill that sheet, update our record, vaccine, whether you take the first jab, second jab, the third jab, and so on. Keep up. These kind of activities were not there before the pandemic. Yes, the pandemic changes to think in different ways. I agree. Please more attention toward electronic communication. Yes, yeah. Absolutely right. Work from home is more common now, yes, and that is well continued. That is well continued. You know what I mean? That will continue for sure. Learning new tools in selecting and hiring, yeah, that is when that activity to be done virtually. What else? Okay, so that, yeah, no, this basically examples of the changes, how the role of the HR changed both, post pandemic. So, the HR, as all of you mentioned, that's actually it's, one of the function, that has actually been, has seen an especially dramatic shift in the purpose and the process of HR after the pandemic. And the role of HR, the overall of HR, and the daily tasks actually performed by the HR professional have gone through significant changes, as you listed in the previous slide. You know what I mean? And the particularly because of the growth of remote, as you mentioned, all of you, the remote work in response to the COVID pandemic. So examples, and that is exactly, I'm just summarizing what you have posted in the previous slide, managing remote teams, virtual teams. How can you manage remote teams? And managing remote teams, that was not a task many HR teams were prepared for at the start of the pandemic, to manage people virtually. Lockdown, don't come, stay at home, work from home. So even those that may have been discussing the advantage of a more remote workforce didn't plan on having the luxury of time in order to bring this and to implement that immediately. All right. In HR, before the pandemic, we used to have a concept we called the telecommuting. It just for certain jobs to be performed from home. And that was an idea, and not so many businesses before the pandemic used to adopt such kind of new working style. All right. So, and after the pandemic hit, that was the time to get it done, be able to work from home. All right. Also, another change that HR need to learn and implement new technology. As I said, technology is the centerpiece of virtual human resource departments, and the HR have largely been tasked with selecting, as you mentioned, learning and implementing those new technology systems, which means that you have had to become IT specialists, HR professionals. They had to be IT specialists, and to align themselves closely to the with themselves closely, more closely with the IT department, right? Now the HR department and HR professional, they have to learn, and they had learned new technology in order to be able to adapt. All right. Also, post-pandemic HR now need to rely to use more and conduct more regular employee survey. So in order to actually ensure that all employees are participating, are highly engaged with the company they are serving, and especially when they work from home. Okay, so human HR professionals have had to promote the employees' engagement, especially during the lockdown and during the pandemic, where everybody was working from home. All right, and that is actually the most efficient way in order to make sure that everyone is engaged, is just to use this kind of survey, satisfaction survey, employee survey. That's all. Employee well-being. This is another change to HR. All right, and the pandemic has highlighted this fundamental correlation between physical, emotional, social, and financial well-being and the employees' level of engagement and commitment to work. So, and nowadays, employees' well-being must now be considered in a broader context than just simply offering well-being programs. And it now represents the mindset that need to be considered and need to be actually emphasized through the culture and the total, especially by adopting the right, what you call it, the right reward programs. So, for example, organizations are recognizing the importance of fair pay. And that is part of the employees' well-being program, by the way, fair pay, equitable career opportunities, all right? And inclusive health and retirement benefits. I mean, in some countries and contexts, that is considered part of the employees' well-being, as well as, of course, to commit to the cultural diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that is all of that. It's not only just to focus on the health and health benefits, but also to focus on other soft aspects which affect the employees' motivation. Like, as I mentioned, fair pay, equitable pay, fair career opportunities, and so on. All right. Okay. So that is basically example of how the kind of changes that HR has after the pandemic. Okay. And of course, has a business HR as a business function had to change it as we mentioned, and as the all of you shared with me. Well-being and building resilience, as I mentioned now. All right, well-being, the health benefits, fair pay, all this is to be included in the employees' well-being program administered by HR. Okay, now this is very important change for HR now, which is HR need to play a strategic role. And before the pandemic, yes, HR actually moved or shifted from being the admin arm to the organization to be to play a strategic role, to play a strategic role. And nowadays, in big organization, HR should have a clear strategy, all right, in order to be able to help organization to achieve their strategic goals. And if you look at any HR department, even in your HR department, all right, the HR should have actually one or more than one of these, what we call it, strategic option. Strategic what? Strategic option. One option is just to be adopted is what we call the efficiency of option. Efficiency what? Option. To play significant role to help organization to cut costs, as you can see. The second option is what? The second option is what we call quality. To help organization to achieve the goals related to quality, related to differentiation. When they hire top talent. When they reward, they should offer their employees competitive compensation package, unique compensation packages. All right, okay, like example, all the example about Southwest, and all of us, we know Southwest, which is a low-cost airline. Low cost, similar to Air Arabia here and Fly Dubai. Southwest, they actually led the industry in terms of number of passengers served by each employee. They are the highest in the industry. It means that the workforce, the people they have, are very productive, very productive. How they succeeded to have such kind of highly productive employee, which is considered nowadays as a competitive advantage. The strategy adopted to be able to have and to maintain and to retain quality employees is what we call it competitive compensation system. Competitive compensation system. They were the first to introduce what we call the profit sharing and the stock sharing to their employees. And also they are not hiring, selecting anyone. 2% only of the total number of people interviewed yearly, they are hired. And that's why they succeeded. So that's what I meant by quality as a strategic option for HR. So we have efficiency, quality, also innovation, very important option. And that is what we agreed since the beginning is innovation is a must for HR, plus responsiveness. What responsiveness is extremely important. All right, so these are the options for HR. So let us get your experience here, your thoughts here, how HR can play in cutting costs, especially post-pandemic, because still we are all businesses, most of the businesses still affected badly by the pandemic. They are affected badly by the inflation across the globe, all right? The entire world is suffering from high inflation, shortage of food after the war between Ukraine and Russia, the energy crisis, especially after the war between Ukraine and Russia, and also supply management problem. So that is the organization nowadays. You need to think how we always cut costs, to have tight control over the cost. So what this is actually imposed a challenge for HR. So how we can cut costs, optimizing cost, hiring the right manpower. Yes, I totally agree. And that is what example of what do you call it, Southwest. I give it to you. Continuous training. Yes, yeah. By the way, training, although they cost companies a lot, but in return they can use it to train people. How can they be efficient and effective to cut costs? What else? What kind of HR? So hiring the right people, I totally agree with you, Mr. Saif. And also continuous training, also very important. What else? All right. Andrew, finding ways to make a balance to ensure win-win situation. Yeah, I mean, yes, win-win. I mean, I'm sure that you're talking about the relationship between the employee and the employer. You know what I mean? So yes, win-win. I mean, yes, and that is, by the way, the negotiation here is extremely important nowadays also, in the HR and HR professionals, because again, when they want to promote a new policy, which will lead at the end of the day to cut costs, somehow they need to present in a way that is, you will win as an employee, and also I'm going to win as a company by keep surviving, and at least you can maintain your job. What else? Okay, let me take some of the texts posted in the chat box. Ms. Jamila save a lot of the facilities cost. Yes. Dr. Heba searching about new skills and different in candidates. I mean, selecting the right employee is extremely important, really important, especially productive employees. You can actually hire one person that they can do the job of 3 or 4 or 5 people. I agree with you. Let me take some message here. Jamila, yeah, searching about, yes. Muhammad Omar, yeah, okay. Develop, improve, measure for employee and work practices. Yes, I'm sure that you're talking about the challenges for HR. Making the work more user-friendly. Yeah, I'm sure that that's related to the fun part. Bringing fun to the workplace. Yes, agree. Salman Khalid, a strategic business imperative will be the best. Yeah, okay. The new after the COVID. I mean, the strategic role of HR. I agree with you, Mr. Salman. Yeah. Yes, exchange intercultural differences. Yeah, I'm sure that this is related to the diversity. Yes, I agree. Intercultural differences. All right, that's extremely important. What else? I'm just reading some of your texts. International talent, Mr. Muhammad Fawaz, talent market has a diversity in cost too. How do we resolve this issue to create a fair, okay, pay band with an organization, diversity in the workflow? Yeah, I mean, you talk about here, I mean, that is not a good practice, huh? That is not a good practice at all. Just to find that one organization, you have people who got employees, got the same educational background, they have the same skills, same working experience, and they are paid differently. I totally against this, and that is create dissatisfaction and demotivating employees. which at the end of the day affect them negatively, because you will start to what? To underperform, because again, that is something which is not justifiable. Not justifiable. When you compare between yourself and the others who got the same experience, everything the same, but they are paid differently. So I agree with you. All right, gender diversity increased chance of organization to succeed. Yes, yeah, I agree. Okay, very important to make more points, innovative ideas. I agree regarding innovative. Agree. That's great. Thank you so much for your comments. Mr. Ahsan here, hiring employees virtually, allowing employees to work from home at least 2 to 3 days. Yes, I totally agree, and that is will continue for actually what? For some positions, actually, for some positions, some jobs, that is could be continued, you know. Training virtually, yes, online training. Now materials, everything is recorded, is available. So no need to hire a trainer, no need to hire a training venue to rent. And this is also, again, that is something which is very difficult and very costly as well, fostering online virtual program. Okay, so that is the role of HR in optimizing or reducing cost. Okay, at the end, I'd like to thank you so much for coming and attending this session. And I hope that you will keep in touch with me, and this is my email address, hussam.alainain@edu.ac.ee, and hopefully I will see you soon in the future. Thank you so much, and goodbye.